I want for you guys listening is to understand mindfulness. It's not a class you go to. It's not an exercise you do. It's an actual practice that you put into your life. And that's where the healing magic happens, because you actually save brain energy by doing this practice.
There is always hope, and you are not alone.
Welcome to Hope Survives, a podcast from the Hope Survives nonprofit supporting individuals and families navigating life with brain injury. I'm your host, Cristabelle Braden. After my own experience with traumatic brain injury, including multiple re-injuries, I've learned how isolating this road can feel and how hard it can be to find a way forward. No one should have to walk it alone. On this show, we explore the realities of life with brain injury through encouragement, thoughtful conversations, expert insights, and real stories. No matter where you are on your journey, remember, you're never alone, and hope survives.
With a little hope, you can make it through today. With a little faith, someday you'll get through the pain. Just a little love is enough to light the way through your darkest night. Hope survives. A little faith, a little love. Hope survives. A little faith, a little love. Hope survives.
Hey friends, welcome back to Hope Survives podcast. Today we've got an excellent conversation coming up about grounding and nervous system regulation. This is a very important topic after brain injury. I don't know about you, but I often get overwhelmed, overstimulated, and it can be really hard to figure out how to calm myself down, especially when there's a lot of symptoms and the mix of symptoms and emotions. Sometimes it's hard for me to regulate myself when there's just that swirling chaos. And so the idea of grounding, understanding nervous system regulation can make a big difference as we learn and talk about how this can affect your life after brain injury. We have a special guest that's back here again today, Shelley Latendresse, who was here before and did an episode on nervous system safety. That episode became very popular, so we invited Shelley back here today to continue the conversation. I also have some news. Today is the season 5 finale of Hope Survives podcast. Don't worry, we've got a lot more planned for you coming up soon with Hope Survives with our podcast, and we're not going anywhere. We're just going to take a short break. So this is the end of season 5. If you have enjoyed the podcast, if you've gotten anything out of it, one of the best things that you can do is hit subscribe, whether on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen, and leave a comment, a rating, or a review. That really helps us to be able to get the word out and to help more people find hope. I've had so many people reach out to me sharing that this podcast has made a difference in their journey with brain injury and helped them to take a step forward and to find a new path. And that means more to me than I can express or say. It's truly been a passion of mine to be able to share this information and share about brain injury. And the podcast started long before the nonprofit. If you've been listening for the last 6 years that we've been doing this, you know that. And you've kind of maybe been on the journey with me or seen the growth. And for that, I want to say thank you. If you're new, welcome to the fam. So glad you're here. There's a library of podcasts available. If you listen on feeds, I don't know if you know this, but you can also go to our website now for the nonprofit, hopesurvives.org/podcast. And we have a library of topics, so you can search keywords, and all the episodes are keyworded and listed. So if you want to hear something, for example, about dysautonomia, you can search that in and all the episodes related to that will pop up. If you want to hear stories, you can search that in. All the episodes related to that will come up. We also have a special page for the community panels, which was a series we did last year in season 4. And I've heard so many wonderful things about those community panels because they're people with real lived experience of different types of brain injury, whether traumatic, acquired, stroke, talking about what it's like to live with a brain injury around different topics. And those might be some of my favorite episodes, although it's hard to pick favorites because I'm so grateful that I get to do this for you and we get to be on this journey together. At Hope Survives, we have a lot of workshops, we have webinars, and we have virtual support groups happening every month. And so if you would be interested in connecting with others that are on the recovery journey, we want to invite you to be part of those groups. If groups are not as much your style, you're welcome to just come and listen. We have people who come and listen until they feel ready to speak up. You can also join our community portal, which is our way to connect online without having to exchange personal contact info outside of social media. Hope Survives has our own app. If you search Hope Survives in the App Store, it'll come up, or you visit app.hopesurvives.org. Our team is continually working to expand the programs and the resources available for you, and we are so thankful. And we've got some very exciting things coming up as we continue to move forward together. So while today is the season 5 finale, don't worry, season 6 is coming, as well as a number of other things and an exciting announcement that I can't tell you about yet. But stay subscribed because there might be something popping up on your feed soon, is all I can say about that. But with that, we need to thank the Functional Neurology Center, who is a sponsor of Hope Survives and helps us to be able to do our programs and serve the brain injury community. We are so grateful to the FNC, and we're so grateful to Dr. Schmoe for just his generosity in sharing his expertise with us, as well as Dr. Harvey, who's been on season 5. We've had excellent spotlights from both of them. And today is our final season 5 spotlight with Dr. Schmoe. It is all about the grounding and nervous system regulation. And so let's go ahead and go to today's spotlight with Dr. Jeremy Schmoe. I know you're going to learn something from this.
To allow your brain to heal and recover, you need to be in a good autonomic state. What does that mean? We can't be in this pure sympathetically dominant fight or flight anxiety state. And the problem is when you injure the brain, some of the areas of the brain that actually involve inhibition of that system, they can get affected and areas can get primed up. So like your cingulate cortex, your amygdala, these fear centers of the brain, they can actually get affected when you look at the fMRI data and research. So we use different therapies to kind of calm that down. We use TVNS, so tragovagal nerve stimulation. So we'll do that on the ear. We do vagal nerve stimulation on the cervical spine. Working the trigeminal system is really helpful. I call it vagus nerve 2.0. So trigeminal system basically maps out, your face, but it basically gives innervation to your intracortical structure, TMJ. It's involved with unconscious proprioception. So we use a device called Resimax. So we'll vibrate on different spots on the face and even do intraoral like TMJ work. And that helps a lot to just calm people's nervous systems down. We do PEMF, so pulsed electromagnetic frequency, where we actually pulse the body. And that really seems to calm things down. We'll literally have people come in, have panic attacks, and we'll do PEMF and take them out of that fight or flight state. So to be able to do your visual training and your vestibular training, it can't be so just jacked and cranked up. We need to make sure that we get your nervous system calm, and then we need to try and activate, and then we need to calm again. So we've developed systems and ways to push you rehab-wise, chill you out, push you, chill you out. And when you do those different therapeutics, that really helps a lot. And then in terms of grounding, well, there are things you can do just ground your nervous system, walking in the forest or, putting your feet on grass will literally calm your nervous system down. Or even looking at visuals of beautiful things will calm people's nervous systems down. Just being out in nature can significantly change your cortisol levels. So I know not everybody can do that and, get out and roll around in the woods and walk around and do all these things. So simple things. What else could you do? Like gargling, humming, breathing, non-invasive, cheap vagal nerve modulation techniques can stimulate your brainstem and calm things down. If you're doing all of those different techniques and it's not working, well, then you need to go higher up and you need to figure out what's going on truly with like visual vestibular. Your brain might think that you're like spinning off the planet, or your eyes might be so jerky, and now you're picking up all this kind of peripheral visual optic flow, and that's cranking up your nervous system. So that's another option that might need to consider looking at. So we need to get your nervous system in a good state to be able to handle doing therapies. And if you can't get there because there's something else going on, we need to target that, or we need to make sure that there isn't something majorly metabolic going on. Like say if your TSH, your thyroid is super hyperthyroid and you're trying to do a bunch of rehab, well, that doesn't line up. Or say if you're just so jittery and you feel horrible, well, let's rule out and make sure that you don't have any tick-borne co-infections or mycotoxin illness or something else that's going on that's making your nervous system like so fight or flight and not able to tolerate any stimulation, right? So those are like the big players that I see. And then the last one is true vagal nerve compression in the neck. If you have CCI, craniocervical instability, like true instability in the neck where you've injured your alar and your transverse ligaments and you're getting slippage of the neck and you're actually getting some compression, and then that's leading to you feeling horrible. So that's how I think we got to be very strategic with it. And it's great to do all these things to like chill people out. But the people that I see in my office have seen everybody. So I need to kind of think more outside the box and make sure that we're not missing those things with people.
Thank you, Dr. Schmoe, for sharing that wonderful spotlight with us. We are so grateful for the expertise offered at the Functional Neurology Center, and they are on the cutting edge of brain injury treatment. For so many people, they don't know where to turn and they don't know what to do, and brain injury can be so complex, but the FNC actually specializes in complex neurological conditions, and they are committed to helping people to get better after brain injury, and they're very good at what they do. The FNC offers personalized neuro recovery programs for anyone going through brain injury and a wide range of neurological conditions. So when you trust your brain to the team at the Functional Neurology Center, they take the time to get to know the whole you so they can personalize your recovery program for your unique and complex condition. There's hope for a better tomorrow, and the FNC is committed to helping you get back to what matters most. You can visit thefnc.com for more from them. And again, we are so grateful for their dedication to the brain injury community and the way that they support the community as a whole through Hope Survives. So with that, I would love to move on to today's conversation all about grounding and the nervous system regulation. I'd love to introduce Shelley Latendresse, sorry about that, who is an occupational therapist. She's a registered OT with 30 years of experience in brain injury, neurology, and neurodevelopment. She's from British Columbia, Canada, and her specialty areas and OT training includes reflex integration, sensory integration, and traumatic brain injury. She has trained and continues to study under Kim Barthel, OT and functional neurobiology, and with PT Natasha Welch in the Concussion Nerds program. She is also a certified yoga instructor and teaches classes at Open Space Yoga in equestrian settings and has her own Vitality Yoga program and offers private post-concussion yoga. Her personal experience with multiple concussions and persistent symptoms is what led her to her current role working in OT and coaching for concussion. So we are so grateful to have Shelley's expertise here on the podcast. And again, if you've been on the journey with us, thank you for being part of season 5. I'm so grateful, and we're going to continue to offer you more. Something else I wanted to mention before I forget is that if you have any ideas for topics you want to hear on the podcast, now would be the time to send them in. You can email us at hi@hopesurvives.org, and we would love to hear any suggestions, ideas, and any topics that would be helpful to you on your journey with brain injury. Thanks again for being part of this, and let's get into today's interview. So glad you're here, and let's get to it. Today, we have Shelley back here on the podcast again. You may have heard her in the previous episode we did. what was the last season before last, I think season 3, where we talked about nervous system safety. And this is an episode that I'm frequently sending to people. And so I invited Shelley back here today to go a little bit deeper into grounding and mindfulness. And I'm so excited to have you back. So thank you so much for saying yes and coming back to Hope Survives podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. And what a great topic to flow with today, because it's very relevant to, anybody listening post-concussion, but also to everyone really in today's world full of distractions. So I think this can be a super great review of like, what is mindfulness and grounding? Like, what are these woo-woo terms and what does this really mean? And how is it relevant? And it sounds impossible. So that's what I want to dive into. What is the core skill of being mindful? What does it even mean? So I'll give you my definition. You can add or ask questions, but
sure. Wait, real quick. Before you dive into the topic, can you give a little bit of your background and your connection to brain injury and what led you into this work?
Great points. We got so excited there. So I'm an occupational therapist working in neurology, specifically concussion. And I am also a yoga instructor. And so I bring these pieces together in my practice as well. I do a lot of work outside, outdoor nature work. When I see my clients in person, we actually work outside. So, so that's what I do. I work online as well and coach clients with concussion. And we work through this actual topic, mindfulness and grounding, is like a 2 to 3 weeks that we work on it. And I'm going to try and get it into 20 minutes of the core. But yeah, that's who I am. And you may have heard me before. You can find me, and learn all about me on social media. But yeah.
And didn't you have personal experience with concussion as well?
Yes. Several concussions, all recreational accidents. And I've used this very skill extensively myself. And that is why I want to give you real examples today of how I used mindfulness to heal my concussion symptoms, and basically how it's game changing and life changing. And I think the examples I give you will maybe get the gears turning, I hope, and you will see how important this piece is on top of your rehab that you're doing, your rehab exercises and whatever. This piece needs to be there for your maximum healing. So
that sounds great. Yeah, let's get into it. Okay, your definition of mindfulness. We'd love to hear it.
Great. So really, it's a core skill of bringing your attention to the present moment. Okay. And that sounds so simple. Allowing and training our mind to settle into the present moment. So how do we do this? And why is it so hard post-concussion? I'm going to be specific to concussion because that's your clientele mostly. So this is so challenging for anyone, of course, in today's world because we're so distracted, right? With so many distractions, scrolling and all of the information coming at us. But with concussion, right, we also have this problem of having a lot of our thoughts rolling all the time of the past and the future. So what I was like before, I could have done this before, and what it's going to be in the future. What if I'm always like this? So if our mind is turning on those two things, we are not in the moment, right? And it's really hard to heal when you're constantly comparing yourself to before, or you're constantly having anxiety over the future. So that's how I acknowledge that for people with concussion. And I say, this is why it's especially important that you can learn to be mindful and in the moment, in the present moment. Also, we can end up, it's difficult sometimes to be mindful because we can end up focusing on our symptoms. So I'm going to get into 2 types of mindfulness here, connecting to the environment and connecting to your body. So those are the 2 I'm going to go through. But so when it's especially on the body, it's really tricky for post-concussion because we can actually end up disconnecting because we're like, whoa, that's all just symptoms. So especially when it's like, close your eyes and drop into your body. And people are like, that's a hard no in the beginning when you're really not feeling it. Can you relate to that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, feeling so disconnected from your body, I think, happens, especially like you said in the beginning, but also with chronic symptoms and having so
Mm,
many years. It's like you get into
yes.
this
Oh,
mode
yeah.
of, I just have to get through, and you learn how to ignore pain, and you learn how to just push yourself in ways that maybe are good for your survival, but not good for your long-term stress and chronic stress, you know? And so
Yeah.
sometimes you need to push through to get through, but how that affects long term, I know for me has been quite a challenge.
hmm And so sometimes we avoid being in the moment because we just don't
Mm-hmm.
want to feel it. We don't want to
Yeah.
feel it. We're either disconnected or we don't want to feel it. Sometimes where it's attention difficulties, like I can't focus, I can't stay in this moment. So there can be that too, or zoning out. And sometimes things can be too cognitive. And when I get into these examples of mindful activities you can do, I'm going to give you real tools today. Um, just be wary that if it feels too cognitive, it probably is. So if I'm saying count 10 things you see and 9 things you smell and 8 things you hear and 4 things that you touch. And now 3 deep breaths and then 2 inhale and then 3 hold and 4 exhale. This can get like on a post-concussed brain feels just too much. And it is. So just leave it. Leave the numbers out of it. Does that make sense?
Because how are you going to remember? Too,
Yeah,
it's like
it's
by the
not
time
the
you get to the
point.
last one, you forgetting what was said
Yeah,
before, and that's not
it's
helpful.
it's not the point. So remember back to the point. Mindfulness is connecting. So 2 ways to connect to the moment. One is you can focus on your environment, on something in your environment. And I'm going to give you some examples of some anchors that you can focus on. And this is the easiest way to start with mindfulness and post concussion, is really starting with the environmental stuff, the beauty that you see or hear or smell or whatever. So it might be the ocean, it might be a deer, it might be a painting at the art gallery, it might be a song that you play on repeat. That when you are in that song, in that painting, in that ocean waves, like your mind is there, dropping in, sinking in, and you are present, right? And you're not thinking about all the stuff and the symptoms and the future and that. Now, the other is our bodies, and that's can be a harder one for post concussion. So I'm going to get into that one too. That's how we can drop into our breath, into our feet, into our repetitive movement. So I'll get to that second. So it helps people to just divide it up because it's a little more tangible. I'm hoping for you now. So let's start with the environment. And so actually the biology of choosing something beautiful and pleasant to ground, we're going to get into the verb of grounding later. But when a space, just think about something beautiful or pleasant. So when a space like feels good to the brain, you know what happens? It actually creates calm. It creates safety that we talked about before. It creates relaxation. And it actually, here's the magic. It allows the brain, it allows to release the cognitive load. So we actually save brain energy. And this is key because people are always asking me, I need more brain energy in the day. Like I'm just running out. And I'm like, well, how many mindful moments like are you taking in the day where you just rest your brain and release all that cognitive load and save all that brain energy? And that's where people kind of go, I don't know. And so what I want for you guys listening is to understand mindfulness is like, it's not a class you go to. It's not an exercise you do. It's an actual practice that you put into your life. And that's where it needs to be daily, like a therapeutic ritual. And that's where the healing magic happens because you actually save brain energy by doing this practice. So I was thinking about it this morning, all the things that I do naturally. And I'm like, I do my pour over coffee I'm not listening to anything. I'm just doing the pour over, just smelling the coffee because it takes longer and I stand there with it. I open my blinds and I spend like a good 5 minutes just thinking about the weather, and looking at the weather. And then, I water my plants. And that's another mindful moment. And so you can build them in to, your daily routine. And that's what I want you guys to do, because that's where we save our brain energy. It's super cool. So releasing a cognitive load is a cool feeling. And if you start your day without all that information coming at you, and instead you choose some mindful moments right there, your day is going to go so much better.
I love
So,
that idea of mindful moments as opposed to this
yeah,
big concept of mindfulness that feels
no,
unattainable. What does
exactly.
a mindful moment look like for you?
Yes. Yes. And savor it. It could be a hot shower that you're just in there. Water is a really great element of grounding we'll get into. But yeah, so grounding is just this verb that happens, something that happens when you take these mindful moments. You become more grounded. You're grounding. We'll get into the details of that. But so the second way to be mindful, so that's using an anchor. I'm going to call the item an anchor. Okay. So think of like you got up, you got a headache, you got the brain fog, you got the symptoms. You're like, oh God, here we go again. This is just what's going to happen. This is another day like this. So you're just in your head completely, right? Over the whole situation. How am I going to manage today? So right away, you're going to be you needing to look for that anchor. Look for that anchor. What can I ground myself on, and just take that, release that cognitive load, give the thinking brain a break, because it's the prefrontal cortex that's going on and wiring. And that's just wasting your energy. So you just want to give it a break and take that cup of tea or coffee, just smell it, sit with it, feel the heat, savor that. That's your mindful moment. So that's you're anchoring your object or your beauty of your environment. And even it could be just walk outside 40 seconds, like that actually changes the brain chemistry. So anything that you could do. Then we have connecting to the body. And this is where a lot of people start with mindfulness, but I would, with post-concussion, I would start with that beautiful anchor, and then move to the body. So that's where you notice and follow your breath. So you might do that as you wake up, as you go to sleep, when you're at the gym, when you're having an anxious moment, whatever, just stop and follow and notice the breath. Connect to something good. So if you're feeling really crappy about yourself today, I love to do my favorite body part exercise, where you're just going to take the energy from whatever that symptom is that's overwhelming you, and you're going to take it to your favorite body part, and you're just going to settle in there, put your hands there and bring it in. And that's connecting to something that feels good in your body. Walking is a rhythmic activity, which is a beautifully mindful activity. So rhythmic activities have a power of mindfulness. So, and if you have a skill in an activity, like say swimming or cycling, that can become extremely mindful activity. So as long as you're not, obviously if you don't know how to swim and you're swimming, that's not going to be very mindful. But if you're a swimmer and it's this repetitive pattern and you're in a zone, same with riding, that's where the mindfulness can fall into place. And it's not, the mind stops wandering and you're just in a zone. And I would imagine music also would be a beautiful, mindful place where you can be in the moment. It's kind of cool because that's kind of both physical, and when you're playing your own music, it's your physical and it's the anchor of the senses. So you're just an all-encompassed mindful moment. So I'm sure you would agree with that, Cristabelle.
I do. I feel that for sure. For sure. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if it's a
So,
worship song or like something that I'm spiritually connected to. I think that adds like a whole
exactly.
nother level.
It does. And that's, now that you mentioned that, I'm gonna add that in, is mindfulness can reach another level. And this is where, if something is just, especially awe, so if something is just absolutely beautiful, just amazement to the brain, then we're reaching a level of awe and gratitude. And for a lot of people, spiritual level. And that's where you're even going a level beyond. And it takes, and then you really are adding a healing element when you get to a level of awe and spirit, because you're definitely not focusing on trying to be there. You're not focused on your symptoms. You're just at another level. So that's, if you can I'm sure people can look back in their lives and think of, first of all, maybe, and I want people to pause here and think about that. A moment of mindfulness. When's the last sunset that you went and watched, And, or when's the last walk that you felt so happy on? Or we can look at a more spiritual level, like you said, that moment where you just felt awe and gratitude at a really bigger, deeper spiritual level. And that's so powerful. And that's why people who have who have a mindfulness practice and a spiritual practice, like that's like another level of healing that you're adding to your recovery. And you know that. And, so yeah, it's just so beautiful. But, if you guys can think for a moment of something that you maybe the last mindful moment, you've had them. Sometimes with post-concussion, we forget, or like, I need to learn mindfulness. Well, you've had mindful moments. You just need to find them again and anchor on them again and go back into them and savor them, And so it doesn't have to be lying on a yoga mat to be mindfulness, is sort of my summary around that. It's daily practices, it's moments of awe and beauty, and savor it and know that you are healing yourself, you're saving energy in the brain.
Can I
And
ask a question here?
yeah, please do.
So if someone deals with chronic pain and headaches
Yes.
and it's very hard for them to find a moment when they're not in pain, how can this
Yes.
mindfulness coexist with the pain that they're feeling?
I love that you mentioned that. So I have a practice that I teach with my clients where we alternate our attention. So it's really important that we acknowledge the pain. We acknowledge the symptom. I'm dizzy, I have a headache, whatever it is. And as a yoga practitioner, we practice this beautiful thing of non-judgmental observation. And that is where we just acknowledge it. We observe it, we notice it, we acknowledge it, but we don't have to judge it. We just, there it is. Which I love the word acknowledge over acceptance, because sometimes acceptance can have some connotation there that it's going to be permanent and whatever. So I like the word acknowledge. So I encourage my clients to use that. And then we can acknowledge that it's there, and we can move back and forth still to that beautiful thing. So I use this technique of moving back and forth. So maybe I have you, acknowledge your headache, and then we move to those beautiful, strong quads that you've been working on because you've been, doing the squats and the walks and stuff. And you just feel good there. And then go back to the headache and then go back. And so we move back and forth. And that is how we manage coexisting with the symptom and being mindful. And so same thing with that. Maybe you're in the hot shower. You can have that headache, but the hot water feels so good, right?
I love that.
So that's my technique that I find the most successful for post-concussion, to coexist with symptom or pain. Yeah. There's always some gratitude and something beautiful. There's always a rose in the garden of weeds, right? So you can find something to anchor and then still come back to acknowledge it. So, we've gone to that, but spiritual and such a beautiful thing. I want to get into grounding, the verb of grounding. So, it's obviously a mindful practice, grounding. Okay. So we're going to use it as a verb. It's an intentional physical and mental practice. So I guess I like to refer to it as, intentional. I'm going to intentionally really try and feel grounded. So of course, why do we do an intentional grounding practice? We want to, it can really settle physical symptoms with post-concussion. So we can settle in the moment, dizziness, nausea in particular. Those two are commonly, if we say, let's just do some grounding for a minute, we can get those symptoms to stop. And that's because we can tap into the parasympathetic and get our nervous systems to settle down. So grounding is mental, physical, and energetic. So if you're going to write something down, that would be what? I'm including energetic because there is a certain powerful element to grounding. And I'll get into the 3 concepts of it. But so a grounding practice, yeah, it is a mindfulness practice. It's a nervous system practice. It's all of that intentional physical practice. So it usually involves the senses, which we just kind of have talked about. Well, it has to involve the senses. I say it needs to involve the senses, something to do with nature and the earth. And it's in the moment, obviously. So rather than talking about it, I'm going to give you some grounding practices because I know we want practical. So when you do a grounding practice, you should begin to feel calmness come on, a strength and a regulation. Like, I'm safe, I'm strong, I know where I am, I know where my feet are on the ground. And if you look back to all expressions of people like, get your head out of the clouds and your feet on the ground, that's my favorite historical expression for post-concussion, because like, really, that's what we are trying to do. Right? And I want to add for post-concussion, physiologically, you don't know where your head is in space and you don't know where your feet are on the ground. That is really the physiological behind a lot of the problems that we have post-concussion. And that's because of the system dysfunction. But let's think about that. I don't know where my head is in space and I don't know where my feet are on the ground. So you see how these practices are going to address both of those 2 things. Let's get my feet grounded. Let me feel where my feet are on this earth. And let's get my head out of space and get it anchored onto something and know where I am. So some grounding practices that I use, physical, sensory, here they are. Going barefoot. So I absolutely love going barefoot on the retreat that I have coming up, which is in nature. We do spend a lot of time encouraging people, there is a physiological thing that does happen. There is, not physiological, I'm looking for the word, chemical, where your body absorbs free electrons. Chemical's not the word either. What is the word that I'm missing? But basically, there is an electron absorption when you do walk on the earth, is what I'm saying. Scientific. But we also feel our feet. So you have a sensory recovery of where my feet are on the ground. And we do know now that post-concussion, the sensory system goes out of whack, right? We know that. We just like everything's overload, but yet I don't know where my feet are on the ground. So some things I'm not feeling, some things I'm feeling too much. That's post-concussion.
Yeah, and all
So
that
this is-
mismatch feels
right?
overwhelming.
And then mismatch, right? So I think for the feet on the ground is super important for post-concussion. So I really emphasize. Now, grounding practice can also be, with something in your hands. You could have a rock and hold it in your hands, and really try to get yourself settled and calm in that moment, grounding with the rock. But if you are post-concussion, the feet on the ground is really important because it's part of your healing. It's actually like therapy, right? To learn to resense your feet again. So that's super important. Anything where you get your hands into something. So let's say gardening or like digging in the beach and stuff like that in the sand. That's super grounding. And if you don't do that, even getting your hands on natural materials. I like to touch wood and a rock and a plant and stuff. That is to our nervous system extremely more grounding than playing with a plastic toy. And so that's why we like to give kids, the more natural materials. So just choosing natural materials is a very grounding thing, right? Water is very grounding. That's why I mentioned showering, cold plunge, all that stuff, right?
I've recently been learning to cook this year, and I'm thinking, like, I have wooden
Super
spatulas, and I'm
grounding.
thinking
Yes.
making soup and stirring it with a wooden
Yes.
spatula and
Super
smelling
grounding. So
the
you see, it's a
herbs.
mindful moment and it's
Yeah.
also very grounding. I'm going to use
Mhm.
grounding as the word. Do I feel grounded right now?
Mhm.
So you think of grounding as a verb that goes with the whole mindfulness realm. Yeah. I
I
am
love
feeling
that.
so grounded, stirring this, and
Mhm.
or a noun, I guess, no, sorry. Adjective would be I feel grounded.
I
And
love this.
I'm doing a grounding activity. I'm just like, feels so
A lot of
good.
times we
Love stirring
overthink.
soup.
What I'm hearing is we overthink it. And how can we
Overthink
find, going back
it.
to the beginning, those mindful
Yeah.
moments, right?
Yes.
That we can incorporate some grounding, but maybe things
Yeah.
that we're already doing in our lives, but we never
Mhm.
thought about it as grounding. So
That's
taking that
right.
extra moment to
Yeah.
breathe and let yourself, we talk a lot
Exactly.
about deep breathing and how that's so
Yeah.
regulating for your nervous system. And so
Mhm.
we are coming towards the end of our time here. So if there was
Yes.
like the most important thing you want to say before we close, what would that be here? I know there's a lot
I
more we could talk for probably
that well, I
3
know.
hours.
Like I said, this is 2 or 3 weeks of it.
Exactly.
Find things. Be curious with this and find things for you that you think um could be grounding. Listen to the birds. Birds, by the way, sing because they feel safe. Birds sing when they feel safety, not when there's a predator around. That's why bird songs create safety in our nervous system. Go be curious here. Go find things that are grounding for you. Whether it's the painting in the art gallery that you can stand there, whether it's, the pose in your kitchen, just with bare feet on that hardwood floor, and just feel the floor beneath you, feel strong, feel solid, feel the moment. That right there can get you out of symptoms, right? That right there can clear your overthinking brain and save room for other stuff. And that right there can bring your nervous system down. So I hope that has opened your eyes a little bit to the simplicity of mindfulness and grounding practices.
I love it. Thank you so much, Shelley. And
You're so
we look
welcome.
forward to staying connected here at Hope Survives with you. If you have any further questions, feel free to email us hi@hopesurvives.org. Our virtual door is always open. We would love to pass anything along. But before we close, we always ask at the end of the podcast, what are your final words of hope?
My final words of hope. Look for those moments. Go and watch a sunset. It's not just about the sunset. It's about everything that comes with it. So that would be my moment.
Thank you so much, Shelley. It's been great having you back on the podcast, and we will stay in touch. Thanks for being
Thank
here.
you. I really enjoyed that.
Yes, I enjoyed it too. And for everyone who listened, thanks for listening. We'll see you next time on Hope Survives podcast.
Thank you. Bye.
If you enjoyed today's podcast, we would love if you would consider leaving us a rating or a review. We are so grateful to be able to provide this support for the brain injury community. And if you would like to get connected, please visit hopesurvives.org.